A recent post on the local Facebook group Gardner, Mass. What's Going On asked the question, what does Gardner, Mass. Need to do to make it a destination city? The term destination city has entered our modern lexicon only recently, and generally it refers to a community that may contain any number of positive economic and cultural characteristics that make it attractive to both local residents and visitors from far and wide. To be a destination city these days means your community is a place people want to visit, transact business in, and maybe even dream of living in. But what makes for a destination city? How do they develop? Why would we want to be a destination city? I'm writing and speaking to you right now from the Hula Co-working Center along the banks of Lake Champlain in Burlington, Vermont. This section of town, along with the entirety of the city, contains countless features developed over the last 40 years that make this community a true destination. I'm here for a conference, and each time I come back to Burlington, I'm struck by several key factors that make this a dynamic environment. Number one, work with what you got. Burlington has some incredible natural assets. No less than a stunning view of the Adirondack Mountains and across the sixth largest lake in the United States. But how can our city compete with that, you ask? Well, there are countless examples. Closer to home, who amongst us would have said some 30 years ago, let's hang out at the mills and learn about industry, and then spend all day spending our money in museums, art centers, and restaurants in downtown Lowell, Massachusetts. Burlington spent considerable attention on integrating its natural, economic, and human assets, and 40 years on, it shows. Who are the people in your neighborhood? Much of what works in a destination city happens because local leadership is constantly ensuring that citizens are heard and engaged, and neighborhood responsive solutions are sought and executed in the marketplace. Neighborhood planning committees, robust public comment mechanisms, and a high percentage of engaged citizens in the first place. These are just three precepts of a community that is actively developing itself according to the needs and desires of its people. People-responsive communities attract and retain, you guessed it, people. How would you rate your community on this measure? Let's talk about resiliency. You can't give up. Entrepreneurs know this. Developers know this. The inertia to remain the same is profound. So is the need by those who benefit from the status quo to keep things as they are. Leadership and citizens, including a majority of a community's business community, have to be in the game for the long term. They must be working together from the same game plan. They must believe together in the same fundamental tenets, the what, where, why, and how of their city's development plan. And like the entrepreneur or developer, they cannot give up until the job is complete. Fourth, it all starts with the right fundamentals. Larry Bird, the legend of the Boston Celtics, was a firm believer that one can only achieve great things if one is obsessive over their fundamentals. This insistence showed in the consistent results of play he had over his career. And cities and towns only become destinations when the underlying economy is sound. In our current world, communities must cultivate homegrown primary employers first before they can support those trendy downtown businesses that citizens generally think of when they are dreaming of destination cities. And in our current economy, this means a focus on encouraging the growth of businesses across industries that focus on some kind of innovation. And I mean specifically in the business of constantly creating the next generation of their product or service, or entirely different products and services as part of their normal long-term life cycle. Products become commodified and are sent overseas for production. No matter, the company has the next-gen model underway to be locally produced. Take this fundamental precept, ensure your community generates diversity of firms across a wide spectrum of employee size, industry, and property needs, and do this over the long haul, and you will soon find yourself attracting yet more innovators from beyond your borders as well. And this dynamism can play out over the long term and reaps benefits for generations. Programs such as the National Center for Economic Gardening have led the way in this realm. Without a sound underlying economy, you don't create a destination city. You create a tourist trap. There is more that we can discuss, but for now, perhaps the most important part to embrace is to know that Countless cities have had to reinvent themselves. Millions of hardworking, enterprising citizens throughout the world right now are experiencing similar challenges. There is massive amounts of data, scenarios in great detail on what has worked and what has not in the past. So, we're not alone. We need to embrace the need for change. We need to embrace our unity with those also on this journey. We need to start believing in a brighter future by first believing in ourselves.